Welcome to the Raise Up Mindset podcast with your hosts, Charlie and Athena Grimm.
Welcome to the Raise Up podcast. I'm Athena.
I'm
Charlie. We are your hosts today. And for those of you who have been following us, thank you so much. For those of you who just stumbled upon us, you can find the rest of our episodes on any social media channel that you can find the rest of our episodes on any podcast hosting platform that you choose. YouTube is where all of our stuff is living. Or you can check out raiseupmindset.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Athena. Some of the things that we talked about is, with your businesses that you sometimes, decisions sometimes become emotional or sometimes they become leadership decisions, but sometimes you try not to get your emotions involved, but I think it's pretty tough because, when you're the owner of the company, you kind of bring it up like a baby, like you bring it up like a child and it's growing to its maturity. And, not everybody's usually on the same program sometimes of that. So you kind of have to get people on that same program. And sometimes that's a little tough. And so I think when we talk about emotional weight of leadership decisions, when the top is really good, everything flows really good down. When the top's not really good, it gets disemboggled on the way down as it comes down. And I really think that a lot of people have emotional decisions. We were just talking about this on one of our groups about emotional decision that somebody had made about something that went on in the DR. And I look at that and I thought, how differently could that have been? I mean, how differently could that have been? And I can tell you over the history of myself, I've had lots of emotional decisions. I mean, I
have witnessed those.
And I try not to have the same ones, and I try to talk about it, and I try to make people understand why we have these decisions and why we do things. But I just think that comes with the maturity of the company and the maturity of yourself. I mean,
I would agree. I think that you could apply this to leadership over business or even leadership over your family.
Your friends, whatever else it is. I mean, I think this is not just business there. It has a lot to do with all of it. And and I think we all kind of get on our bandwagon when something hits our crazy radar, it's like you hear something crazy, you're like, what? That's crazy. And then I'm horrible with face expressions because when I hear something crazy or something that doesn't seem like it aligns very well, my eye goes up, my ear goes up. But I try to be diplomatic about it because everybody has a story and everybody's story is their story. And just because I don't believe that story doesn't mean the story doesn't exist. It's what it is. So I think it's tough. It's tough to have some there. And it's tough sometimes when you're trying to get somebody that thinks differently to think along the lines that you are. So I think it's just finding a common ground that you can talk to them in. Something that you are, if you're maturity levels up here, but the other person's is down here. Sometimes you just got to bring yourself down a little bit and understand it from their platform. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what you're working to explain is your view of how you see alignment and attachment. And I think for business owners that are new to business or they're new at operating a business, there is a lot of attachment decisions that are made, and there's less thought about alignment, like what actually makes sense. It's like, no, I'm not selling that thing. That was the first thing I bought when I started this company. Where is that attachment or is that alignment with where we are right now? And it takes time. It takes time to decide what it is that you want, so that you can get in alignment with what you want. Because there's some things that actually what we want, if we don't move and do these other things, we are not in alignment with what we want. And so then is it attachment to this when it's not actually going to serve us anymore, or is alignment more important?
So it sounds like you're talking about my life because
no, you're just feeling a certain way about something.
So I had a bigger problem, and I can tell you this honestly. It's like when you're in business and you get stuff, you get this extra spare rim, or you get this stuff, or you get this cart that you might not use, but it's valuable, and you know the value in it, and you don't want to let it go. So I was that slash business owner that would keep things slash hoarder, and I say hoarder because we'd have things I didn't touch for years, but I knew it would have a purpose down the line. which didn't have a purpose down the line. I ended up throwing half that stuff away. So,
but it did have a purpose. It showed you that that's not what you prefer to
Yes.
hang on to, and it just took some time. But that was its purpose.
Yeah. So just, like when we moved shots from our old shop to this shop, there was a lot. I mean, we filled up one of those 40-foot dumpsters like 2 or 3 times full of stuff. And it's stuff I thought we'd always need, but we didn't, and we just carried it. And we carried it from the other shop to that shop. So we just moved more shit. So we just keep moving more shit. And then it sits up there, and she's like, you ever going to use that? I'm like, of course we're going to use that. We're going to have a time and place for it.
Don't throw away my stuff.
Yeah, and so every time I go on a trip, Athena would order a dumpster, and then I'd be looking on the video cameras like, dude, get that out of the dumpster. She's throwing my stuff away. But there's an attachment to things, and I think that was the emotional side of me of when you didn't have a whole lot back in the day, when we weren't doing as well as we are now. That all had a value to it, and it might have been worthless to you, but to me it had value. So I look at those emotional things, and I'm just talking about stuff now. I'm not talking about employees. I'm not talking about anything else. But I think that's where we get in the way of some things, is like that. And then some people could just care less. Like, if I haven't used it in 20 days, throw it away.
Right.
20 days. I'm like the 2-year guy. I have to keep it for 2 years before I figure I don't want it. But it's gotten better over the years. Like this year, we decided to get rid of a bunch of the vans, and there was no pushback on it. We knew that we had to get rid of some of the vans. We kept them. But they were old vans, and they were just depreciating. So it made sense to sell them. As you get into your...
Some vans, 12 vans.
And we still have like 5 more to go. And we're still, So we got to look over, we switched over from a Ford fleet over to a Sprinter fleet. So now we're doing Mercedes. So it's much easier to work on one side vehicles than it is to have like 16 different kinds of vehicles. And unfortunately, Mercedes now keeps changing up the alternators and the brakes and everything like that. So now we're still kind of stuck in the same deal, but same fleet.
Right.
And so as I get older, I realize that a lot of this stuff is not near as important to me as it was back in the day when I thought it really had value to it. But so now I don't see the value in those things near as much anymore. Like, I try to give stuff away now. I'm like, we got these stairs here. I'm like, yeah, just take them. Just get them out of here. It's one less thing that we have here. And I realize space is a premium. Like, we only have so much space, so we can only put so much stuff in our space. And do we want it cluttered? Do we want this? So.
And I think about space in our head. Like, those might be space that's like taking up shop space, but it's almost like that. It takes up shop space and it takes up head space.
It does, and I think that clouds your judgment on some other things too. Like, you got other people. I'll go in the shop.
We need more storage.
Yeah, I'll go to the shop and they're like, "Oh, we don't throw it away, Troy, because we know you'd want it." I'm like, "Well, let's get rid of that shit. We don't need that stuff anymore." I mean, it's all broke. But my team is on the spectrum of where I thought keeping everything was the way to go. So letting them know that we can get rid of stuff. And now, we've decluttered the shop, we've decluttered the yard, we have more space now. So it's all in a positive way. But again, guys, when you're doing this and you're learning your business, you're going to think that you might need that file cabinet. But when that file cabinet gets rust on it and it's just, now it's a placeholder for everything else that's put in there, it might be time to get rid of the file cabinet. You just don't need to have it around.
Or a lot of us are using digital storage now.
100%. But I'm saying like file cabinets for other things. Like we don't just put paper
it's
in them.
a drawer.
It's a drawer. It's put more stuff in. It's a vicious circle.
Well, from the other side of that, there are like strategies that I've deployed over the last 3 decades because I recognize those patterns. And so there are things that I've probably, it's been out of love to allow you to just be who you are, but that's the reason why you don't have a drawer on your nightstand, because I know you just like to put stuff in drawers.
So now she just gives me baskets and I fill that up. So I have a basket that's full of stuff, but it's much better than it used to be. But you just don't know when you're going to need that extra pocket knife or you're going to need that business card from something. It's just one of those things. I'm getting better, people. I'm telling you, it's a process.
But you are seeing the difference
100%.
on what alignment feels like versus attachment,
Yes.
and is sometimes it's aligned to keep that item on the shelf for another year to see, because we know this thing is happening down the road. But
Well, I think that's why that we kept the vans, is just in case something did pop up that we had it, because they were all still good functioning vans. They were all still good vans. Just during the COVID times and things like that, like we ended up with gold vans, we ended up with blue vans, we ended up with some red vans.
A rainbow of vans.
And we were usually just a black and white fleet, you know, and so it was differently to get rid of those things too. So all in good time. So I just let you know that I'm not too clouded on my judgment of keeping things now. I usually dump stuff and get rid of it, and it's not as much of an issue because I don't like the clutter.
So what was the point then where you like turned a page on that, where you were like,
Well, I think it's when we moved over here. It's like when we
had the auction.
Well, we had and how much stuff did we get rid of there? I mean, like, oh, good Lord. I mean, we sold so much stuff. And I think it was just realizing us paying for those 40-foot dumpsters and doing that stuff. I mean, we could have been throwing it in our own dumpsters for quite some time, saving the money, saving the space upstairs. And then it was just like a mad rush to get rid of things. So it was just like, there's probably some things I would have probably still kept, but we just didn't have the room over here that we did at the other place. So we had to make concessions.
There wasn't anything, honestly, that I can look back on and go, gosh, I really missed that.
No, I mean, I lugged the lockers, but we never really used the locker idea. But the locker idea was a good idea because we had people's stuff and they wanted to put it in there. So we have these great ideas that seem like it's a real great idea, and then it doesn't pan out, and then they sat up there for 3 years doing nothing,
Well, and I think being more mindful now about, okay, well, this is the plan that we have now. We have these things that we want to create in the future. And as stuff comes up, does this align with what we're creating over here?
Yes.
And
alignment with your partner on that is pretty important. Like Athena has a total set of different things sometimes she aligns with, a little bit different that I align with, but we try to make them align together sometimes. But it is much better than it's ever been.
Yeah, well, I remind myself a lot that I prefer to be present, I prefer to be centered, and I prefer to be in agreement with myself. And one of the agreements that I have with myself is that Charlie gets to show up and be whoever he needs to be that day.
Yeah.
And that is not anything to do with me personally. That is just, I appreciate the variety that you bring. I appreciate the energy that you lift up into the room. And sometimes the energy can be on fire, and sometimes it can be really fun and like, happy. But it's all part of you. And that's more important to me. And sometimes, does it always make sense to me? Do I think that it's always an aligned thing that we're in? No, but that doesn't need to change what I'm doing. Like, I can still be in alignment with myself, and then it's just an invitation at that point. Do you want to do it? No, I don't want to do it. Okay, well, that's good. That's okay. Like, there's no hard, fast, like all or nothing anymore. And it's because that is ultimately what aligns with me.
Well, looking at some of the questions here too, is like it says, have there been moments where delaying a decision created a bigger problem later? And I
would say 100% of the time,
100%.
yes.
Like, IRS issues and things like that. I mean, like, those don't go away. Just because you get a notice and nobody really comes and knocks on your door doesn't mean like we could just put that in one of my drawers and leave it there. I mean, like, you got to take these notices seriously. If something gets missed on a 941 or they reappropriate to the wrong place. I mean, we just had this instance where we paid our taxes and we paid all this other stuff and they put it on the wrong year. And then they're like, well, you didn't pay your taxes this year. I'm like, what do you mean we didn't pay it? Here's the check. Well, and they said, well, it didn't get applied to the right one. Well, can we switch it and put it onto the right one now?
Yeah, we can
do that. But then when we write about another check for $130,000, tell them because we're getting fined every day, and then it gets returned to us. But again, it's like these things.
Oh, you haven't even heard of the latest one.
Oh, I haven't heard the latest one yet. I don't know if I want to.
We get love letters from the IRS almost every month because there's something going on and there's such a delay. And so that's why I just keep that standing 60-day appointment with the local office to just check and make sure. This primarily stemmed from when we had the fraud.
Identity theft.
The identity theft, and so now our stuff is triggered, and so it's just.
So I don't want you to think we have any IRS problems right now. We have zero IRS problems. We if there's medication and we have to pay the IRS, we're paying the IRS, then we'll beg for medication. I mean, that's the whole idea of our attorney told us a long time ago. If you have to make your tax payment or get your medication, make your tax payment. So, so we hold a great, and that's why they gave us back our money, is they saw the mistake and they saw the realize.
But that's the piece of it, is it's like back then, the reaction that we would have had to any kind of notices coming in would have been like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling.
Sure.
And the space that we're in now is okay, this is information, which I think is a great like connection into alignment and over attachment, because when we're attached to things, we're really in this emotional place of, oh, we can't, this is going to mean something. But if you get a notice from the IRS and you're having this emotional response because there's this big number on a piece of paper and it's like, oops, psych, actually we made a mistake. Like,
and you guys know where you're at. I mean,
yes.
Most people know where they're at with their 941s. Most people know where they're at, their payroll taxes, all this other stuff. So if you're not doing it, then you get that notice and you know it's the oh shit button. But then if you don't, you guys can fix it. I mean, there's places to fix it.
So there's always a way to solve it too. You just may not like the outcome or may not like that you have to pay more money, but in that particular agency, there's always a way to solve it and to work through it. And I think that's part of like realizing what aligns with you, is that you settle yourself down and you start to see the bigger picture.
Take a big deep breath.
Yes, and just
don't make
settle
any
down.
huge decisions for 24 hours.
You don't need to have such an emotional like.
It's a knee jerk.
Yes.
And I think that's what we've gotten out of, is the knee jerk. We're just trying to make sure things align the way we want to and the way it's going to be done. I mean, like, we've turned down offers on houses, we've turned down things because it just didn't align the way we do, and we knew what things were worth. And when you know your net worth, or you know what's going on, you want to make sure that you're getting that, because you're only cheating yourself. So the alignment, I think, is much better than it was a long time ago, and it always has room for improvement. So.
Yeah, I think every day we figure out things that we actually prefer, and then if it's true, then how do we walk towards those? And sometimes it's letting go of old patterns that kept us in the opposite of that. So,
well, and that kind of reads into the culture of the vision of the company. If like, as we were just talking about somebody else too, it's like, if you're always changing things up, your team has no idea where it stands. So like, if we stand on this pillar or this mountain this day, but then we're like, okay, no, we're switching over to this one. There is change, and we're a very change company. We make a lot of different changes, but it's got to make sense changes. It can't be knee jerk. And I think where the knee jerk happens is
I think knee jerk looks like incongruency or contradiction.
I agree.
Where you are saying one thing today and then you're saying the complete opposite the next day. And that's the difference. There's a lot of things that we update in stride because there's opportunities that present.
Well, and there's always new things that come up too.
Yeah.
So you have to be open to those. If you're still doing your reservations by paper and you're doing it all by hand, then you're way behind the times. You're gonna be extinct. I mean, that's gonna go away. If you're
I think it is a way.
Well, I think there's some people
that don't want to believe it, but it's a way.
I went over to go pick up something at one of our EMS places that sells stuff, and they still do manual receipts. And I asked her, I'm like, how come you guys don't barcode this? And she's like, we've done it this way for 28 years, and we only got a few more years left.
They're sliding into home right now.
They're okay with the way they're doing it, and the process works for them, and it's okay.
And they're not scaling, and they're not growing. It's just maintaining.
So that's okay. And so I left it out alone, but I just thought it was interesting because I got this whole entire ledger and my writing's so horrible, I couldn't believe that nobody would be able to tell what the hell they bought, if I had to write it out every time. So I liked that, and I kind of I laugh because we used to be that way. I used to carry a clipboard home with all the reservations, because back in the day we didn't have a couple hundred reservations or 300 or 400 a day. You had 20 reservations for the rest of the week, and so it was pretty easy to print out a page of what you had there. So if somebody called and asked for something, I could tell them exactly what we had open, and it was on a clipboard, and it was there, and it was a very efficient way then.
It was, and it was all over the wall.
Yep.
And drivers could see with a Post-it note.
Yeah, they could see it all there.
You're like, I want a Post-it note.
We can't even buy Post-it notes here anymore because some of the team doesn't like them there, so we don't have Post-its there. So.
No, it's Athena. Yeah. Athena does not prefer Post-it notes.
I didn't try to throw her under the bus.
Because it's like the miscellaneous folder. It doesn't have a specific use case, and the Post-it note becomes chaos because it's not in a project management system.
So again, when you're going to those emotional things, it's not too emotional for me. So I didn't put up a big fight about the Post-it notes because I don't write them.
For the record, I buy Post-it notes because others prefer it, but I do not personally use Post-it notes.
Oh, that's new.
No, it's been that way. Oh. I want people to be who they are. There's a transition, just like there was a transition point for your path of. How do I get more in alignment with where I know I'm headed versus dealing with some of these attachments? Post-it notes are attachments for some people. They want to have the rainbow of colors across their monitor or stuck to all these things.
But again, if you're doing that, that's okay. It's your system. It's your system has to work within you. I mean, if you all of a sudden somebody has 200 Post-it notes and you tell me you can't have a Post-it note anymore, you're going to see some decline probably in this person's progress in the very beginning. It might get better at the end when you have a better solution for it. But you've got to look at some people just do things a certain way.
Yes, and that transition, the goal would be that they would be open to utilizing our project management system for their tasks and reminders, because it is you just don't know until you start using it. You just don't know. Just kind of like when we switched to Limo Anywhere and we went into the cloud, you did have some resistance to that, but you started using it and you were like, oh, actually I can see how this is going to help us scale. Well,
and then you look at the same thing when we had Driver Anywhere for the drivers. They were very it was intimidating, the app, and are we doing it right? I mean, there's just a lot of changes. So. And
now we wouldn't be able to run our business at the level that we do if we didn't have that kind of communication between us all.
Definitely wouldn't be as efficient as we are. Yeah, we wouldn't be as efficient.
You're right. We wouldn't have probably the ability to
scale
have
up
as much work as we do.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think we'd still be able to run it, but I don't think so. Why does leadership require protecting the environment and not just individuals? Well, I think if you're protecting the environment of the company, it's a whole. We're not just doing single individuals. It's in my eyes, that is something that we're protecting the whole entire company in the same. They're getting the same from you and the same from me and the same from our managers, same from everybody. So it gives them a little bit know that everything's being taken care of equally. Like this person's not getting more than the other person, and how that kind of. To me, and not the individuals, is there's always going to be some individual people that we have to, there's some things that we make some concessions for or do some things for because they fit that criteria in there. But sometimes it becomes a little bit tough because then once you give them a little, they want a little more and they want a little more. And then all of a sudden they're making their own schedules. Well, I can't come in this week because I want to do this. And then the alignment's not there. So you have to kind of weigh that out a little bit as if the rest of the culture sees that. And then the other side of that is if you have somebody that's a lesser producer, but you have somebody that's a great producer, but we're treating them the same and equally, why does that other person want to be that bigger producer when they're not getting anything else out of it? So there's a lot of fine tuning, I feel like, that we have sometimes.
Yeah, well, and I think the key is not making emotional decisions, like deciding what aligns with you and then continuing to move through that. And so what aligns for us is the Raise Up core values. And when you measure decisions through those, like that, I call that our strainer of measuring decisions. It's like Raise Up is responsibility, accountability, integrity, service, engagement, understanding, and perseverance. And so if we're looking at something like that, it's like the first thing that I look at too is I'm here to serve the whole. And I'm included in the whole. You're included in the whole. The frontliners, everybody's included in the whole. And if at the point where it stops serving us individually also, because that was something I didn't understand before. And that I think is what created some of my emotional decision making back then, is because I was in this place of not taking care of myself all the time. And so I wasn't the best that I could be for everybody else. And so when you don't get enough sleep, or you don't eat right, or you're not taking care of yourself, you can sometimes not have the patience, not have the understanding, not have the clarity that you need in order to not be emotionally decision making. If that
makes sense.
Yeah. And so once I started including myself in what's best for the whole, then that's when the clarity started to come with what does align with me. Well, Raise Up aligns with me. Okay, well, what else aligns within the Raise Up culture? And it's kind of simple to see now patterns of this doesn't align. There's a process and a policy around that. this does align. I think these subjects that you brought up are just, they're true for a lot of us, and they're funny. And but when it comes to leading people, there just needs to be alignment and invitations. It doesn't have to be as drastic as, how do you keep from losing your patience? And well, the first thing is start taking care of yourself, and then you'll have more patience, and then you'll be less offended by what's happening around you and receiving it more as information. There's plenty of people that get invited regularly to come join us at BAC in what we're doing here. Do they all actually, they say yes and they come and they get hired, but do they actually take the invitation?
Sure. Are they serious about it?
No, not all of them. Their mouths are telling us one thing. We just have to watch their behavior, and their behavior will tell us everything. And there's nothing personal about that. They're still convincing themselves of what they want, or they're still learning what aligns with them. And it's okay.
I agree.
It's absolutely okay. Well, one of these questions that I was noticing under the audience questions was, how do you separate temporary frustration from true misalignment? So that question, I think, can be easily answered by your training. So if you have somebody who is getting frustrated because they don't understand the assignment, that's training. If you are seeing somebody who's getting frustrated because, this reminds me of a team member that no matter what happened, he just could not lock in on what actually needed to happen. And Charlie was coaching and coaching and coaching him over again. And finally, I just looked at him and I was like, man, why are you doing this to this guy? Like, he can't get it. Like, it cannot connect the dots, and he's not going to quit. Like, he is just white knuckling through, but it's not connecting. And it's not because he was not intelligent. It's not because it wasn't because he can't learn. It's because he's not meant to do this role. And we need to be honest with ourselves about that. There are some people that they're not wired to do that role, and they really want to do it, and they want to do a good job. But we as leaders need to see where that misalignment happens. And no, this is not a training situation. We have done what we can for training, and we've compared this to what the normal training time should be. And so that's just my 2 cents on that.
Well, I agree. I mean, I definitely think that frustration sometimes gets the better of me. I get frustrated with some of the things, but I sit back and I kind of think about it, and then how can I address it? How can I is it me, or is it they're not just being part of what the company wants them to do? Sometimes it's a little bit of both. Sometimes it's people get on their own path and they want to do this way, and they don't ask us, and then then we go and confront them, and then they're disgruntled about it, and it's just like it can be so much easier,
Yeah.
And we give them clear guidelines, so I think the guidelines really help out. So I think it's a person's personal decision which way they want to go.
Yeah.
They don't want to be on the team, then, or they don't want to be part of what we're looking for, and it's part of our plan, then they're not the right person for the team.
Right, and they're not a bad person.
No.
We're not
our person.
Bad trainers. It's just there's a misalignment, and it doesn't need to be, nobody needs to be crying or upset or bitter or all of that. It just is what it is. And I saw last night even, you were communicating to our youngest about some tasks that you expected him to do. And he received feedback from you in such a way that I had to go, man, I'm really proud of you. Like, you received that information. You didn't try to defend yourself. You didn't argue. You were just like, yeah, okay, I'll take care of that. Sorry about that. Of course, I'll take care of that. And that's what aligns with us, is people who can receive feedback. And staying open to receive feedback. There's plenty of people we've met that they can't handle feedback, and they don't want it.
Well, and I think it's tough for people because when they see what they think it is, it's their truth. Does that make sense? So you're trying to unconvince somebody that this is not the way to do it, and in their mind, sometimes it can be that way. So I try to, because I think I've had to convince a lot of people different things that I had in my mind that I thought, and it didn't come out right. Sometimes Athena calls it the first shitty attempt. You get your first shitty attempt. How do you say it?
Shitty first draft.
Yeah, your shitty
That
first
was
draft.
Brene Brown.
Yeah, so
First draft.
sometimes we don't have the best first draft because in our head it makes sense, but the way that we deliver it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So, and then some people kind of take it there. So sometimes you have a couple different draft models.
Yeah. I mean, and that can be helpful, especially if you're using a chat bot to run it through your chat bot.
Yeah, and I think that comes with emotional ones. Sometimes it comes a little bit more emotional
Yes.
than it does. It comes with a more of a leadership.
Yeah, and I definitely think that being able to receive feedback and deciding if you can do something with it is a great second step into, after you've become aware that this doesn't align, how can I shift? And yeah, when I saw little Charlie receiving that feedback, because he has a tendency to like want to argue, like he wants to be right, and he decided in that moment that he didn't need to be right about anything. He just needed to receive. And I felt like that was a monumental moment for that 16-year-old young man when I witnessed that.
I think he conceded because he just didn't want to argue, but he didn't want to. But sometimes I wonder if he really gets it. I mean, like if he's just saying it just to get out of the room and not have any more.
But he didn't get out of the room. He finished making his food and he hung out for a little bit. Like I didn't feel any stress from him around that. It was just, he just made a decision in that moment. And that's it, it's like we have these opportunities that come up, and we can decide every passing second that things are going to be different. And you know, one of the things that we will play with the other leadership team members and I will run the opposite game sometimes. And that was a lesson that I learned being married to you is, man, I get into the same spot every single time, and I don't know, it's so, like, why do I allow myself to get here? And then I just realized one day, I was like, oh, I'm just going to do the opposite. I'm going to do the opposite because I know how to get to where I don't want. So if I do the opposite, then maybe I can get to where I do want. And that starts it, and then it just kind of gets momentum from there.
Well, I hope that's working good.
It is. It's really encouraged a lot of people. There's lots of people that I've shared that information with. And but I think for Char, watching him decide that in the moment was like, yes, you are learning, because he put it into practice, and he didn't need to be coached right in the middle of it.
And then we had today.
But you know what? That's okay. That's okay, because it takes practice. Like, all of this is a practice. We decide what we want and we keep walking towards it. And you know what? It doesn't always look beautiful every single day. But the point is that we stay moving towards the alignment of what we want. And it seems to be like attachment is like a stumbling block to staying in alignment. When we start getting attached to things, then all of a sudden it has to be our way. It has to be done. It has to be this person. It has to be this car. It has to be, and then it's like we totally close down all the possibilities. Well, it could actually have rainbows, and it could actually be. It's like I notice when I stay in creator mode, I am way more happier all the time.
Good. Well, that was some of the questions we had. We're out of time for this episode, but thank you. And again, guys, we appreciate you guys watching our podcast. Again, we do this because we want you guys to understand that you're not by yourself. Yes. This is nothing that you haven't gone through. And, you know, just in this company, 26 years, and not counting our other companies, we just want to give back. So
absolutely. And how many times does the word attachment versus alignment come up in your conversation? It's definitely something to think about. So we're happy to bring the topic forward. So until next time, check us out at raiseupmindset.com.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.